I'm really pleased to be speaking with Gillian Pickard today. Gillian is for Finance from Enterprise, who specialise in funding for start-up businesses and some already established, I should point out. Gillian, welcome to Business Questions.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
That's all right, no problem at all. It's really good to good to chat to you this afternoon. So Finance or Enterprise, we've been going for quite some time in various guises, but primarily you're there to facilitate finance for startup businesses?
Yeah, what we do startups and established businesses, and we like to say that we're an alternative funder to the banks. It's not to take away from the banks what they do, and obviously they can provide other services as well, like overdrafts and things. We just do loans, so that's how we look at ourselves, as an alternative to the banks.
So what do you look for if you have a startup? What are you looking at for? What information do they need to provide you? And how much are you looking into that information for accuracy and potential? Because obviously your money's at risk.
Well, with the startup loan scheme, the client initially registers with startups and expresses an interest, and startup loans undertake the credit reference search. If everything is okay on that, and they're not looking for things quite in the same way that, say, a high street bank would, they're not wanting a squeaky clean credit report. And then it's passed to ourselves for me to work with that client. And the things that we look for are a business plan, 12-month cash flow forecast, and a personal survival budget. And they're really things as a minimum. Otherwise, we might ask for, if they're having business premises, for example, we'd ask for a copy of the lease, just to make sure that the amounts we've got in that cash flow tie up with the lease, and that they've got no nasty shocks of how much these premises are going to cost. We'd ask, sometimes startups want to see ID, sometimes they want to see proof of address and things like that. We just cover that at the time, depending. But the main three things are the business plan, cash flow, and personal survival budget. And we'll always help clients with those, or signpost them to where, in some areas, there is help and support available for startup businesses. So especially the business plan, it might be an idea to get that help, so that you get everything in there. But the cash flow, I usually go through with a client and take them through it, because I appreciate it's something new to them. So sometimes they do need a bit of hand-holding with that.
Yeah. What are some of the most common errors you find in their cash flow statements? Is there anything that always springs up that they've forgotten about, or they haven't included, or that's completely wrong?
Yeah, sometimes people will muddle up what's the startup cost with what's an ongoing monthly cost. They'll forget things like their wages, and a common one is they forget to put the loan payment in there. So it's a bit like, excuse me, I want paying back.
Yeah.
So they're sort of common things. But if somebody's had a go at doing it, I'm just glad that they've had a go. And I'll say to them, look, we'll just sit down and we can knock this into shape, together. There is also what comes with the cash flow forecast, a sales assumptions page. And for most businesses, that will work, and it's quite good, because they input, they have to pick like 4 products. It's got space for 4 products, and they'd input what they're going to sell the product for and what it costs them. And then they just think about the volumes that they can sell each month, and it will automatically calculate for them what the sales are going to be and what the cost of sales are, and that's a really good tool. There's not many businesses it doesn't really work for. I've just come across one recently where the guy charges a day rate, and there's no real point working out how many products you're going to sell, because he charges the companies, he provides a service, charges a day rate. You might as well base it on what his day rate is and just work it out. But generally, for most services, even for people like beauticians and nail techs, you know, you can work out and think about how many manicures you're going to do and what that manicure costs you, what you're going to sell for. And certainly for people in shops and things like that and retail, it is really good, because they're just thinking about the volumes that they think they can achieve realistically, and all the calculations then are done for them and fed into the cash flow.
Yeah, and it's probably a skill they should have anyway, inherently, just to work out their gross and net profit margins for their own growth in their own sanity, to see where the business is actually going, and to, you know, base some future decisions upon that. And what would be a sort of minimum amount of money you would look to lend somebody?
The startup loan scheme, the minimum is 500 and the maximum is 25, but it's on a needs basis. So a lot of times you get a lot of applications for 25,000, and when you look at it, it's like you don't need 25,000. So whilst, you know, it's important somebody's not underfunded when they start, but it's equally, you don't want to saddle people with debt, because it's got to be repaid. So you're paying more interest, you're paying higher payments. So we sit and have a look at what they really need, versus this, it says 25 on website. So we'll look at what they need. And by the same token, I had a lady last week who did want just £500. When I chatted to her, she's decided to take 700, so that she's got what we call either cash flow or working capital, a bit of a slush fund left in there for any emergencies. So, you know, sometimes, yeah, it is a case of having a little bit more. But whilst I said I'm always mindful, I don't want to saddle people with debt, because it is a loan at the end of the day, and they're supposed to pay it back. So.
Yeah. And with the startup loans, is the interest rate variable, or is it a set amount?
It's set. It's 6%, which for a business loan is very, very good. If you went to a high street bank, if they would lend to a startup, you'd be looking at about 3 times that, the interest rate. And additionally, there's no fees, so there's no setup fee.
Okay,
there's no ongoing monitoring fee, and there's no early repayment fee. So that's why I often recommend to clients that, I mean, I didn't say to the lady last week when she's having £700, take it over 5 years, but generally speaking, if somebody's borrowing a few thousand, I'll say to them, take it over 5 years, because then if things go well and you want to repay it early, you'll only pay the interest up to date, but it's had the advantage of keeping your payments down for your first few months, especially those first 6 months of trading, quite key. Keep your costs down.
And I've heard you can have a capital repayment holiday, Gillian. Perhaps you could explain what that is.
Well, when the client's taking the loan out, obviously it's like I've just said, the first 6 months in particular, will invariably be quieter than what they think. But when you're trying to tell somebody that when they're all excited and enthusiastic, it's difficult. But what you can do is have what we call this capital repayment holiday, and it means that you just pay, say, for 3 or 6 months, whatever we agree, you only pay the interest. So in a lot of cases, it might be that you're just paying £40–50 for 3 or 6 months, whatever we agree. It will mean that thereafter the loan repayment is a little bit higher than we first thought, but it just spreads that out and it keeps your payments really low for them first 3 or 6 months. I've recently had some 2 ladies setting up a hairdressing business, but they knew there was quite a big conversion to their shop that they needed doing. So we agreed the loan before Christmas, and coupled with sort of lockdowns and not knowing when we can get workmen and things like that, and they've got a 6-month capital repayment holiday, so that they can get the work done to that shop and opened and get some trading under the belt before they start making the full repayments.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
They can do that. Is
yeah.
the scheme a government-backed scheme or a localized regional scheme, or who's actually providing the money?
Yes, it is. It's been around since it was created about 2012, 2013, just to really help startups and get things moving in that market. It's an area, not wanting to bank bash, but the banks have been reluctant for quite some time to, and you can understand why. It is quite high risk area. So they created the scheme and then created Startup Loan Company to run the scheme on their behalf. And it now falls under the remit and control of British Business Bank.
Okay.
So yeah, it is, it's a government-backed scheme that is looked after and overseen ultimately by the British Business Bank.
And what term are the loans generally? Sort of a year to 5 years, or can it be
Yeah.
longer than that?
No, that's the maximum. It's minimum 12 months, maximum 5. And as I said earlier, that if a client puts 3 years, sometimes I'll say to them, you might as well just do this over 5. And if you want to pay more, if you're in that position, pay more. And if you want to pay early, pay it early. But it just does keep those payments down at the beginning, which is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And are the loans secured against their house if they have one, or other property?
No, it's an unsecured loan in that, well, the loans are to the individual, so the individual is personally liable. So, for example, if you went to a bank and wanted a business loan, the bank would normally lend that to, say, the limited company, but want security from the directors, and in the form of the directors signing a guarantee. It's quite a complicated process, that lengthy process as well, because if they want the security to be what we call supported, so that there's something behind that guarantee as well. So they might take a charge on your property, say, or if you've got stocks and shares, something like that. Taking security can be lengthy. So how this works is it's to you as an individual on the trust that it's for business use. And that's why they do the credit check against you as an individual. And then, as I said, the money is lent to you as an individual and you just use it for personal use. It's only as if you took out a credit card. The liability is exactly the same, that you're personally liable.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. And what advice would you give anyone looking to take out a startup loan?
I think the main thing is you have to remember it is a loan and it needs to be repaid. And even though it's a cheaper loan than if you went to a bank, you've still got to ultimately look upon it that you've got to pay this loan back, you've got some responsibility. So that then falls for you to think about, are you going to make the sales that are going to be able to achieve that? I'd also say to people, and I do say this to my clients as they draw the loan down, if you do get into a sticky patch and you do, get into bother, everybody gets ill from time to time. And if you're a one-man band, it's really difficult. Don't bury your head in sand and don't think you have to struggle and try to repay it. If you ring up startup loans and explain to them, what they'll sometimes do is say, right, we'll suspend next month's payment, or how much can you afford? Right, we'll do that for 2 months and then get back in touch with us and just keep the lines of communication open if you've got a problem. And I mean, in particular, during COVID, the first lockdown, and they've done it subsequently since. But startups were very, very good with clients who needed a payment holiday, and they were giving people, you got in touch with them. They just did it for 3 months straight off, payment freeze, and just said, get back in touch with us at the end of 3 months and we'll talk about what you want to do. And I mean, in some cases, like I'm thinking beauticians, hairdressers were fine, 3 months were all right. Beauticians, they extended it a little bit further, the government. So they had to ring up and they extended it. They were doing it month by month for them then. And they gave people a lot of options at the end of it, that if they wanted to either catch it up, I can't imagine many people want to do that, but catch it up, add it to the end, start paying again so it were added to the end, or reschedule your payments so that you're paying a little bit more, but you did it over the same term. Or, as I said, some might want to do what I call a bullet payment and catch it up, but I doubt if many people are doing that. So yeah, they are quite flexible, but it's a case of always talking and keeping that communication open.
Yeah, and just wrapping up finally, how long does the process take from approaching you to receiving the money?
That is a tricky one to answer because it depends on the client and how quick the client gets back to me, and obviously what workload I've got. But we're not talking months and months, or we shouldn't be. I mean, at the end of the day, the credit score, the credit report that they run only is valid for 3 months. So, you need to be thinking you can get this boxed off in 3 months, because you don't really want to keep having credit checks rerun on you, because it'll affect your credit rating. Although some people I have had clients where we've had to do 2 or 3. It really is how quickly a client gets back to me with information that I ask for. So if there's something with the business plan, and I might ask them to alter something or think about something a little bit more, it's then how quick they come back. If I need the lease, it's how quick they get the lease back to me. If they've already been trading, we need to see copies of the business bank statements. It's how quick they get things back like that to me. I've got an example in a minute. I've got a lady on who I needed bank statements from her, and she came back to me like that with the bank statements. But then when I've looked at the statements, they don't tally up with a personal survival budget. So I'm trying to get hold of her, and I've literally been trying to get hold of her for 10 days. And I've sent her a message on the system, I've emailed her, I've rung her, I've sent her a text, and she's just not replied to me. Now, I'm not sure if it's because of business she couldn't start at the minute anyway. But if she just tells me that, but it's managing expectations on both sides, really. So I think from somebody registering, and again, it depends when they register, if they've already got a business plan or if they've done a plan before, and if they've already got the things I need, if they've already got those, it's going to be quicker. But if they register and then we have to start doing those, either over the phone or getting some support in place to help with those, you could be looking at a couple of weeks for that.
Yeah.
And then, it's me looking at it and assessing it. It can take me a day or so. So you're usually looking at a few weeks, a couple of weeks, if it's starting from scratch. If somebody comes and they've already got, oh, I've done this plan, I've had a go at this plan, you'll be a little bit quicker. But no, I mean, I do hear some other stories where, people have applied elsewhere and it's been months. If ever it takes months, it's because I'm waiting for something from the client. Because if I'd got that much workload on, it would take months, I'd be shouting up.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. That's really, really helpful. Is there anything else you would like to add, Gillian?
No, really. I just think for when people are thinking of setting up a business, try and think of something that you're going to enjoy doing, that you can do, as well, and that you've got all the skills for. And in that, I say that because I've had instances in past where people have wanted to be. I had one guy wanted to be a mobile computer repair, do computer repairs, but he couldn't drive.
Oh,
And I'm
unbelievable.
like, how are you going to do this? And he said, well, I'll visit the people at their premises. So I said, that's fine, but what if you can't repair it at the premises and you need to take it back? And he sort of said, I said, you know, if you turned up on a push bike, you can't do that. And he said, well, I'll have to go on bus. And I'm like, but really? I mean, I'm going back a few years when, you know, we had sort of, you'd have a tower under your desk and things like that. And I'm saying, are these people really going to be happy that you're taking that tower away with all their information and going on a bus with it? You know, what if you leave it on the bus? And so, you know, sometimes it's not just the skill to do the work, but it's the other skills, that components that come with it, that you might need to drive and things like that. And it's just thinking it through. As a lot of times people ask family and friends, great, but sometimes you'll just get the answer that they think you want to hear, and that's not always the best answer. And just have a look what's available in your area, wherever, what part of the country you're in. We're very lucky in South Yorkshire. We've got a scheme called Launchpad, and it runs through all the main towns and cities in South Yorkshire, and it provides free help and support for 3 years for startup businesses.
Oh, fantastic.
But it's making sure you know what's available in your town or your locality. There aren't many grants around, but you might have, say, a local scheme. I'm not promising, but it's always really ask questions, really find out, do your research and see what's out there. And if it is that you're unemployed currently, ask the job centre if there's any pots of money that they've got, what schemes you can get on. They do one called New Enterprise Allowance. Do you qualify for that? And also for, I'll say, younger people than me, don't forget Prince's Trust, because although they've not got the money that they used to have, they still do a lot of support, and they'll help you with your business plans and things like that. And usually their advisors are quite experienced, and you'll get an honest, you know, feedback from them and answer and things like that.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, Prince's Trust, especially, you know, a fantastic organisation.
They're really such a good organisation, and they do, you know, lots of good work with. It's up to 30-year-old, I think now. So I think they dropped it used to be Princess Youth Trust, and then they dropped that. It's just Princess Trust now. So, but yeah, you use whatever help and support is out there. Listen, you know, take on board people's opinions, and you won't always get what you want to hear, but that's good sometimes. But really listen to it and really think it through. And if you dismiss it, that's fine. But as long as you've given it some consideration, I would say. And sometimes areas have banker mentors, and you might be able to get yourself a local mentor that could perhaps help you, either in your town to tell you what's available, or also in your particular specific trade. So yeah, it's I'd always say it's not easy going self-employed, and it can sometimes be lonely, and you've got to think, is this right for me? Or am I better off being an employee, where people tell me what to do and things like that, and I complete a task? So you've kind of got to look at yourself and think, is this going to be right for me as well?
And also, as someone who's been self-employed for 21 years, there's no holiday pay, there's no sick pay.
There's lots of things to think. Yeah, there's lots of things to think about it, and not everybody who sets a business up is going to end up like Alan Sugar.
No.
you know, a lot of times it's not about that. It's about the freedom that comes with it, and it's a way of making a living, especially at the minute with what we're going through, with the furlough. A lot of people being furloughed, and a lot of people being made redundant, and uncertainty. And a lot of people are seeing it as, you know, um, a way out, if you like, and that's great. And I appreciate for some people it might be the only way of moving forward. But just sort of thing, like you've just said, there's also comes the other side of it. If you're the one man band, if you don't work, you don't get paid. You've got to save some up all year to make sure you've got some holiday pay, if you like. So it's not all, you know, roses is I suppose what I'm saying, and rosy in the garden, but it can be really rewarding, if I get my teeth in right, sorry, and challenging, and help people, you know, out of a situation at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just yeah, some very, very solid advice. And there's going to be lots of people who are looking to set their own business up. Yeah, there are a lot of cottage industries, a lot of small businesses working from home,
Yeah,
and there's hundreds they can actually choose from, with probably, you know, quite low capital costs, and being able to come to you and know it's going to be 6% interest. They can get loans, you know, for £500. What a great help that is to them, and also a
yeah,
great opportunity. And, you know, I'm sure they've got a lot of helpful advice from you in this and how to approach it and what to do. And I think that the, you know, the message here is, if you're going for startup finance, then be as prepared as you possibly can. Have your documents, have your business plan, have your cash flow statements, have it all ready to give your advisor, and then they can set to work on it straight away with
yeah.
minimal delay. Because you've got the idea, you want to run with it as soon as you possibly
That's
can.
it. Everybody always, or most people, it's like they want a decision like yesterday and to start. And it's like I said, people are really enthusiastic and keen. If you're not, I mean, why you shouldn't be doing it, sort of thing. So that follows. But the other thing I suppose I should have mentioned is that the loan scheme as well is open to people who have been trading up to the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So if you do start as now, and to keep your costs down, and I think a lot of businesses are going to run from home, and it's going to become very popular. But then, you know, a year in, you might decide you want your dining table back, and or your spare bedroom back. And if you move into premises, and expand, you can still apply for a startup loan. So they're looking to extend that to 3 years, but they haven't as yet. It's still 2. But it's something to bear in mind that if you start up and you don't need anything, further along way when you come to make that step, if you like, and that leap into your own premises or something like that, and just want that little bit of comfort behind you, you can use it then as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
So
Thank you very much indeed, Gillian. That's been really good to chat to you. Lots of great advice there, and yeah, hopefully you'll get lots of calls. We'll put the details below in the description, how they can find you. I know you obviously only deal in sort of the, you know, Yorkshire area.
now I can do countrywide.
Okay.
um
Oh, fantastic, brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah,
previously we very much used to meet people face to face,
yeah,
so didn't really do many outside our patch, but because of COVID, we've all had to work differently.
yeah.
You know, I've done about 2 face-to-face meetings since last March, so very different way of working for all of us, and me included. So no, they could be anywhere. I mean, if what I would always do, if somebody got in touch with me and I felt they did need a lot of hand-holding that could be provided in their area better,
Yeah.
then I would say to them, speak to somebody more local. But no, I can speak to anybody.
Yeah, that's brilliant to know. So yeah, so your
Yeah,
details will be in the description and also be on the screen right now for you to look at. Give Gillian a call if you're thinking about starting up your business. Gillian, thank you very much indeed.
thank you.